The next day, Len went in for the interview, while Lot and Rad watched him and the girl from behind a mirror. Everyone was eager to attend this interview. "Good morning," Len forced a smile when he saw that the girl was scared, but since he couldn't really take off his dark facade around people other than his close friends, it came out not so much crooked as correct. A corporate smile, without emotion. "Would you like something to drink?" he continued, maintaining his corporate smile. No, thank you," she replied sadly. She scratched her elbow. It was red, which meant she had been scratching it before they arrived. She had been sitting alone for only a few minutes. "I know this is difficult for you. You've lost a loved one. But I need to ask you a few questions. May we?" She said nothing, didn't move, so after a moment, Len repeated, "May we?" This time she nodded uncertainly. "I would like to ask about the nature of your relationship. Were you a couple?" "We were dating," she replied after a moment's thought. "But we weren't a couple." "I see. Was there a reason for that?" "I had been in a bad relationship before. I didn't want to get involved in anything now. At least, not yet. Not at this stage. I needed more time to trust." "A bad relationship?" "My partner, Marcin, was very jealous. He controlled me a lot." She waved her hand as if to chase away the memories. "He even used new technology for this. He installed programs so that he had access to my messages from my phone." "How do you know?" "He told me during an argument. He actually shouted it. He asked about messages I had written to a colleague from work. And this colleague, I had no connection with him," she interrupted him. "They were just friendly messages, often about work." "Are you still in contact with Marcin?" "No. After we broke up, he caused me a lot of problems. He couldn't accept that we weren't together anymore, but..." "But?" he asked when she paused. "At some point, I blocked him. I didn't want to have anything to do with him. I deleted everything related to him. Maybe that's why he started contacting my current boyfriend." "They were in contact? How?" Len asked. "Through messages, and sometimes they called each other. Marcin was probably giving him trouble and harassing him like he did me. I was worried. I wanted him to block him, but he didn't want to. I didn't like it. Tomek had recently become nervous and distracted. He had a company and was sending packages incorrectly. The customers were getting upset. I told him to block Marcin, but he refused. Once I even did it for him. I took his phone and blocked him while he was away so he wouldn't get any messages. Then he checked his phone often and got even more angry. When he figured out that I had blocked Marcin, he got mad at me. He said he wanted to stay in touch with him, that Marcin didn't have anything to do with me anymore, that it was just a moment after we broke up. If that was the case, if he didn't have any feelings for me, then why was Tomek so upset? And why was Marcin texting him all the time? I think he was lying to me, that there was something going on." "Did you have a good relationship with Tomek?" "Yes, very good. Apart from Marcin, we didn't argue about anything." "How long were you and Marcin in a relationship?" "Too long. 6 years. He was very jealous," she repeated. "That's why I don't believe he had nothing against me." "Marcin studied programming. We know he was good at it. Do you think he could have installed a C hand?" "No problem. When we lived together, he used to assemble various things in the basement. He would sit there for hours. He liked tinkering with robots, just like some people like tinkering with car engines." "Do you know exactly what he was working on there?" "No, I wasn't interested in that. Maybe you'll find something in his new apartment." As Len was leaving the interview, he asked the woman to leave her ex-partner's contact details at the reception desk. "I sent a message saying you would leave your details, so they'll know what's going on. Just go over there," said Len, and left. "Why did you ask her for her contact details? We have his details. The hearing is next week." "I know, but she said she deleted everything related to him. I want to see if she reaches for her phone, if she writes it down from memory. They watched on the camera as the girl went downstairs, got a piece of paper to fill out, and sat down at the table. She looked around, then secretly took out her phone and wrote down the number. Actually, Rad pondered, maybe she didn't express herself clearly. Maybe she meant photos and so on, not a phone number. Or she's up to something, said Lot. Let's send some guys after her, added Len. Have them follow her and check if she's really not in contact with her ex. We'll question him tomorrow. Rosa sat at the kitchen counter. A pleasant breeze blowing through the window ruffled her flying braids. In front of her was a list of names and transparent boxes with larvae. She glanced at the clock. It was 20 minutes to 11. Rad, we're leaving in 20 minutes. Are you ready? I am, he shouted from the bedroom. What are you doing? He asked when he finally came into the kitchen. He didn't look ready. Rad, she said angrily. We're really leaving in 20 minutes. I know, he replied dismissively. So what are you doing? Oh, she nodded disapprovingly. It's for college. I've been teaching students for some time now, and I have to grade their work. I didn't know you wanted to teach. I don't. I'll be finishing my second year of studies soon, and I think I'll decide to do another 2 for my doctorate. They gave me this to see if I'd want to do it, because in the doctorate program you teach students from time to time.
You know, I once heard in history class that people used to study right after school. How so? She asked, surprised. It wasn't like it is now, where you take courses and go to work and only then possibly go to college. It was just school, college, and then work. That's strange. What a waste of time if it turns out you don't like it, she said, smacking her lips and leaning over the transparent boxes. Show me the work. Larvae? The students had to modify the DNA of the larvae. They had to change their color. Everyone got a red larva, and the student's task was to make the larva blue. Rosa reached for a pair of tweezers, picked up one of the larvae and placed it on the table. It didn't go so well, because hardly any of them are blue. Are you sure you're teaching them well? Of course, she said, getting angry again. Lots of shades of red, he continued, ignoring her nervousness. Some purple. Oh, this one looks good, and it's blue, he said happily. But it has a flaw? What flaw? It's dead. Fuck, Rosa, that's terrible. I tried to explain as best I could. Now I don't know if it's me or them, she sighed. Get changed, Rad, she added after a moment. Is that bad? You're in sweatpants, she pointed out. Well, maybe I am in sweatpants. Rad went to the bedroom. When he came back, changed into pants and a t-shirt, he asked, Are we taking the tram? The weather is so nice. Maybe we should order a sky vehicle. It'll be nice to feel the wind in our hair. And there are free seats. We live in the center. There are limits here so that the sky is nice. I checked the app, she said, opening it again. We'll get a ride. They went up to the roof and ordered an aerial vehicle from the app. After a short wait, it arrived. They sat down in the middle on 2 seats. The light-looking structure, consisting of 3 interconnected circles with propellers in the middle, lifted off. The propellers were surrounded by metal resting against the circles so that no one would get hurt. Nice, said Rad, as the sun's rays kissed his hands. True, replied Rad, and she grabbed the steering wheel. They flew towards the Krakow Market Square. They got out halfway down Karmelichka Street. They jumped out of the vehicle, which hovered half a meter above the ground. As soon as they got out, it immediately flew away. They were surrounded by beautiful old tenement houses in bright colors. Not far from them was a building that stood out. Due to its gardens set back, the gray tenement house had 2 huge horns protruding from the roof, sticking out into the garden and the street. The tenement house stood on 4 cow legs. They looked like the legs of a stuffed animal, but they were covered with a better, more durable material. And although they looked as if they had cotton or down inside, they were certainly not filled with that. The garden was also peculiar. It was full of strange, unusual plants. People sat at tables or on poufs. Plants flew over the heads of some of them. Your dad had a good nose for this cafe. It's always full of people. That's why he's thinking about a new one, but not in the center. A second cow cafe? Why not, actually? There will be no shortage of customers. Not a cow cafe. He's planning a different style. Let's go. It's already 7 past. They crossed the crosswalk and were greeted by 2 cuddly flowers at the gate. 2-meter-tall plants covered with white, soft fluff, like puppy fur. At the top, they had large pink flowers that looked like hats on the plants. They bent as they entered and brushed against them like a fawning cat. Rad walked past them and stood in the garden waiting for Rosa, who stopped and hugged first one plant, then the other. When Rad stopped, he saw the waitress take one of the plates and walk away with it to the far end of the garden, where a large flower stood. It looked like a black tulip. It was bent as if it were badly wilted. A group of children stood in front of it. "Who's next?" asked the waitress. "Me!" shouted the girl. "That's enough for 2 times. Who's next?" "Me," said the boy. The waitress poured the leftovers into 2 bio bags. She tied them up and clapped her hands. The plant opened its black petals wide, like a hungry animal. "Aim for the middle. Try to hit it." The waitress handed the bag to the girl. The girl hit the target. The plant straightened up so that the food could move. You could see it moving along the stem, just like you can see it in a snake that swallows its prey. "Here you go." The waitress handed the net to the boy, who was younger than the girl and had missed. The plant leaned toward the food lying next to its pot and took it for itself. "You'll get it next time," said the waitress, seeing the boy's dissatisfied expression. "A new flower?" asked Rosa, who stood next to him. "Dad made it recently. He genetically modified another plant." Rosa and Rad headed for the entrance. The gray door was decorated with a knocker in the shape of a cow's nose. There was no doorknob, so they pushed it open and went inside. The interior was also gray and white, with tablecloths in the shape of black and white spots. Flying plants moved above them. They entered the staff room and found Rosa's dad. He hugged them in greeting. "Hello, I'm coming over. I asked them to prepare a table for us in the middle. You can go there now." They sat down at the table. After a moment, Rosa's 10-year-old sister joined them. They looked very similar, except that Mac was blonde. They hugged each other in greeting. Rosa's mother was dead, so this was her entire immediate family. "So what are you guys having?" asked Mac, looking through the menu of the cafe called Under the Horns. Mac's hair was tied in 2 ponytails on either side of her face. They were finished with bee hair ties that she had received as a gift from Rosa. The ponytails fluttered on either side of Mac's face.